What's up, guys? Welcome to another wonderful night of console Overwatch here at ELO Hell. I am Steidel24, and joining me, a good friend of mine, Hamwell. Hamwell, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing excellent. I'm ready to get back into some console action. I've been away from it for a minute. I'm excited to see my old console compatriots.
Yeah, I've been out of the console scene for quite some time, so I'm not as familiar with the players in the scene as you are. But tonight we're gonna have a matchup of Ignition versus Team Revamp. We were talking earlier about some of the players, but you had some things that you wanted to say.
Well, yeah, I'm familiar with a good bit of the players on Ignition. That's the fortunate thing about coming from console, recently moving over from PC. I do recognize some familiar names out there, specifically on the side of Ignition. Previous teammates of mine include Spider, Stiggy, Sleepy's Mouse. And then from there, notable names within the console scene as far as Umioka, Weary Bunny, Nightshade, Venus the Savior. A lot of great players out there. Really great to see them competing here in this senior division. For a few of them, it's been a developmental increase. They've went from lower divisions up into higher divisions, so that's really cool to see as well.
Love to see it when players are having that kind of personal growth as they're playing. I think that's one of the best things about the players that really do stick around to play
Mhm.
multiple seasons. You really get to see that transformation. Is there anything specific or anybody specific that you're expecting to kind of pull out all stops, or maybe pull out a surprise pick here and there?
Well, I can tell you just from the DPS line here heading into Lijiang Tower that double hit scan on the side of Ignition could definitely be on the table. You've got two very proficient hit scan players in Nightshade and in our Spider. So I mean that's something that wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. Uh, you know, but volatile DPS is definitely something that Ignition has in spades, and we'll be looking to see how Revamp comes to answer that basically. Atomic and Pinto on the DPS line
Ready
for
for
Revamp.
battle.
That's really going to be a lot of their basically 1v1 scenarios, playing against their DPS counterparts, and I think that's going to lead to some really fun battles to watch today.
Alrighty. Well, we're going to waste no time getting in on the action, ladies and gentlemen. So, like we said, Ignition Inferno going to be taking it in the blue, and Revamp going to be taking it in the red.
5, 4, 3.
See what the compositions are going to be telling us early off the gate.
Round
Pretty
one.
similar.
Capture.
I like the Ryan Zarya brawl. That's definitely fun to see. The Moira or the Mercy coming out from Venus Acera. Both teams running Moira, but the Mercy Brig difference, that could be a important distinction to note here coming into this.
Both teams going to go ahead and take up their fight at the top of the stairs. And it's Weary Bunny taking an early pick on to guess who. But Adam is going to be able to respond in kind pretty quickly with Venus there on that Mercy. Like you said, the difference maker. You can bring Spider back on into the fight. With that, Ignition Inferno brings up the man advantage by 2 in this 4v6, pushing Revamp back to the doors.
Definitely, and if you look at the ult difference, specifically in the Moira battle, Sleepy's Mouth just coming online with Coalescence, just now hitting 75% for Analog Kid. So, I mean, that's a huge difference, that's a great ult to, initiate with a fight. You can use it mid-fight, but it's a great ult to start off with as Weary Bunny builds his Shatter as well. That could be a potential pairing that we could see as this engage proceeds right here at the choke. It's such a strong choke for the defending team. That's huge, though.
It's such a difficult choke to surpass. I mean, you can go to the high ground, but then you're putting yourself into a hallway, which is not the place that you want to be against a team that has ult charge, Zarya charge, like what we're seeing right now. I mean, Ignition Inferno just able to hold this corner with complete confidence. Oh man, the Graviton goes through, and you see Spider going into the back line to freeze them all up while the Coalescence comes through and the Deadeye. It might be a little bit over.
Yeah, that might be just a scooch overkill. But that being said, you're still looking pretty good in the ult economy. You got to be aware of that Coalescence on the side. Analog Kid, that's a nice DPS trade coming out. But you do have Shatter for both sides, so I definitely expect to see that in this fight. But look for Atomic with that Deadeye. We're seeing him move up into position. That could be an ult that we definitely see this fight. I mean, you don't go up there for nothing. So that's going to be a big fight. With Venus Saber popping that Valkyrie, that's going to kind of start off the fight.
Exactly where they want to be for this big Deadeye, but Atomic drops down to the bottom. He's taken out by Nightshade after only a single kill. However, it is going to be enough for Revamp to go ahead and take the point. Now 92% given up. They have to hold this point for a very long time.
Yes, they really do, and you know, ult advantage now for the first time really this fight shifting over to the side of Revamp. This is going to be an early Riptire coming out. Oh, but Weary Buddy, that's a huge shutdown because now all of a sudden you're not really looking at much on the side of defense. This is suddenly becoming more winnable for the attack.
Trying to keep track of the ultimate, but it looks like the damage, however, is still going to be there for Revamp, and a late Graviton from Stiggy just commits some very valuable utility to what was a losing fight.
Yeah, that was a very unfortunate Graviton. I know Sticky will be wanting to have that one back. And in doing so, you've really, once again, this sort of ult battle here at this choke for Revamp's defense has really just been back and forth. And now Revamp, they're back in the positive side of things.
Back on the positive side of things on one end of it, but that shatter coming out from where he's running the name of the game as Nightshade finds the opening kill. So the coalescence there from City gets still a slow push from the mission as Revamp begins to answer back the kill from Atomic. Kill feed, however, going to be fading color blue. Looks like this is going to be a one fight right here.
Absolutely, and the Mercy pick by Venus and Savior really showing a difference there. I mean, you know, Ryan going out early in that fight, you know, but using burning a lot of key cooldowns on the side of Revamp, and that really just leads to you know, the death, but the res comes through, and that's a huge advantage.
Oh man, talking about huge advantages, put Nightshade on your team. Man's going insane on a tree right now, looking after that coalescence to the point where it gets a kill. Now listen to that damage. To deal with this wrecking ball quite handily, they have so much crowd control to meet Guess Who on this Hammond. Oh man, Switch having a bit of a tough battle there at the very end, but a hard-fought win by Ignition.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I mean, that point retake, once they had control, that brawl comp really just, I mean, Revamp has no choice but to stagger in at that point, and that brawl comp, that's exactly what you can't do against them, because anytime you get up close, that's quick, you know, quick damage, quick eliminations coming through, and that really allows for no stall, and, you know, just a well-executed round coming out from Ignition to start us off here.
Now, Revamp right now seems to be switching up their composition. They're going to throw Atomic onto the Reaper, and Guess Who onto the Zarya. We're also going to see the emergence of Echo from Spider.
3, 2, 1. Round 2. Capture the objective.
I do like the brawl mirror here, you know, and the switch up going with the Lucio. I think that is a big difference that we're going to see. Combine that with the Symmetra, I mean, the point, speed to point, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, they were on the point, well, almost at the same time that we saw Ignition and Inferno come out of spots. So look at them, the positional advantage. They are going to have to work hard to hold it. You see Spider now creeping in through this top window to try and spectral damage into the back line. He's going to be met with a lot of opposing damage, so it's going to be easy to take for Revamp. Ignition Inferno now having to work to get the point back.
Right, and yeah, now, I mean, positioning is everything here on this point too as well, so, you know, with Symmetra instantly paying dividends. Oh, with Spider, he's sneaking into the back line. That is some crafty effort.
Speaking about positioning being everything, Spider with an amazing flank to open things up, but Atomic from a rage going to fire back with him. Work on the point with the kills coming through for Revamp. Ignition Inferno just cannot find a foothold on this attack. They're going to have to sit back to spawn and back to the drawing board.
And I mean, I really like the spam comp that's coming out from Ignition, but I mean, when you're dealing with an attack onto a point that's already as closed off here as we have, I mean, you're going up against a Reaper and Atomic, you know, Pinto's popping off on the Symmetra. That's just a tall order for the spam to sort of get in and get the shots off that they need. But this Shatter coming online for Swift, this is going to be big. You know, got Weary Bunny coming online with him as well, but the real fight is going to be getting the grab first, and I definitely think we could see a grab in this one.
Grab is win condition right now. They need to get that online, but Weary Bunny going down very early on. Well, you're gonna have to see Sticky hold that Graviton until the next fight. We still haven't seen too much out of the aerial duo of Nightshade and Spider here on this map of Legion. They've been a little bit quieter since we saw them last point.
They really have. They can't get these shots in right now. And in the meantime, that was a dry fight coming out from Revamp. They really didn't use any ults. They're about to have 6 ultimates online with this defense so ironclad at the moment. I mean, this is I don't know how Ignition's going to break through this with the time they have remaining. This could be a good play.
From behind, coming out from Spider.
The sound barrier.
Sound barrier there's another buff. Scattered out before you dodge out of the light burst. Pushing the now able to commit that barrage and not finding the value they wanted, as Kento going to continue to get kills with these turrets. Oh man, Symmetra from the great spawn doesn't matter. Those turrets are still going to kill you.
Those turrets are deadly. I mean, you know, this was just such a great defensive position set up by Revamp. I mean, it's really no surprise once they got on point. The double spam comp, while it does provide a lot of damage output, it can't match up against the Symmetra and a Reaper at what really matters here in Control, which is, you know, point presence and getting onto that point and maintaining control. You see in our Spider on the Echo doing that crafty flank, hitting the Reinhardt duplication. That starts things off, but it was a clutch sound barrier coming out from Analog King, and I mean, that just goes to show that, you know, when your defense is as strong as that, you know, you're ready for these scenarios and these sort of surprises, and that's exactly what we saw there. Revamp was ready, they had a game plan, and they executed to perfection.
You want to see what practice looks like? That's what it looks like. That's synergy, that's communication. You know, they've worked out scenarios like that or something similar multiple times, you know, in scrims. It pays off. Oh!
It's a big one.
It hooks to start things off. Very much in a very difficult situation. Revamp wanting to start things off with quite a bold statement.
Right, that was I really like the hog pick here, especially considering that, you know, we talked about it earlier, Stiggy on the Wrecking Ball, a personal favorite of his. So I mean, you know, this is a good pick to try and counter that, but it doesn't seem to be paying much value right now.
Well, he's able to be there for a little bit of disruption, and that's going to open the door completely for Ignition Inferno to allow for the DPS to get onto the point and make a little bit of noise. But Ignition's going to be the ones taking the first point here, and look at Nightshade, 51%, Spider, 78, Larry Bucky, 72. I mean, everybody is above 60% of their ultimate.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're right here in 6 ult territory after one team fight, and meanwhile, you've got just a few ults just hitting 75% now on the side of Revamp. So this is a huge disparity, and Nightshade's really going to have a great opportunity here to get some value with this barrage.
Oh!
That was huge!
Don't
Nightshade.
The holographic koi pod. Nightshade coming out big with the elemental kills, environmental kills. Sorry.
And that frees up so much space for Sticky too, not having to worry about the Hog Hook pulling him into a compromising position against Atomic's McCree. I mean, that really just allows so much more, you know, area denial coming out from Sticky now on the Wrecking Ball. You throw that in with the minefield coming online. I mean, this is the shoe is on the other foot right now from what we saw this last point.
Look at Spider. Spider's around the back, but in the front, Nightshade's gonna have a barrage, and it's gonna do everything it needs. Oh man! Nightshade,
3 ults for a team fight. That's what you want to see. I mean, honestly, you possibly could have saved the mines for this next fight. But that being said, I mean, when you've got 3 ults online, or now we do have some switches. It looks like late ults being used. There it is. Okay, now it all makes sense.
Woo! Ignition with that Deadeye finding too, and then Nightshade over on the other side of the wall, finding himself with the support line. Man, Ignition Inferno right now showing themselves. So they're pretty much treating themselves to a free point this last round.
Yeah, in a word, I would call this oppressive right now, Scheidel. I mean, it's just, you know, there hasn't been a full team fight on the point yet since this was taken by Ignition, and now we're sitting in overtime and we can stagger it. It's a foregone conclusion. Lucio has already used the sound barrier. I mean, this is really just cleaning up, and this looks to be a strong map 1 taken from Ignition.
Yeah, they tried to get that nano boost going there, but Pento not able to secure another kill. Now you see the kill feed now. Blue, Nightshade getting up into the face of Adam just to make sure that he knows that there's a killer on the other side.
Victory.
Definitely, and just dominating performance there on that garden section.
But yeah, I mean, mean, let's look at this play of the game from Stiggy.
Yeah, Stiggy getting play of the
I
game.
want to
You
see
love
what
to
he
see
has
it.
here. Oh, this is the early grab with the May that goes behind. And then they throw the
Nice.
Coalescence in with the Deadeye, and boom.
Well, if there's one thing you can count on so far, at least the way it looks like with this map one, Ignition, they are not afraid to use their ultimates. Gratuitous is an excellent word, I think.
Yeah.
And it's paying off. I mean, that aggression, especially on control maps, that's going to get you so much value. I think it's going to be very interesting to see where we go from here as far as just payload maps. More of these sort of mentally coaching nuanced sort of things. I think that's going to be very interesting to see if I like to say that coaching becomes more of a factor here in these next maps with payloads and such. And so it's going to be interesting to see if Ignition can keep up the momentum.
Well, stay tuned, folks, as we're going to go to a quick break before we move on to our next map, Rialto, to see if Ignition Inferno can keep the flame going or if Revamp is going to take their revenge. Welcome back, folks. I hope you grabbed yourself a drink and some popcorn while you were on the break, because we have got a fire match for you right here. I am Shadow24, my co-caster for tonight, the wonderful, the beautiful Hamwell.
You flatter me.
Joining me for the Ignition and Revamp fight. And we just saw a pretty heated battle. And yeah, I'm keeping with the temperature puns. Earlier with Ignition and Revamp. Coming into a payload map, you talked about how Ignition was very forthcoming with their ultimates, is one way to put it. But in payload maps, that doesn't play as well as it does on control, because you're moving, you're consistently going into different fighting zones. You kind of need that ult economy to support that.
Oh, very true. Very true. And poise and composure is really the name of the game, whereas aggression and domination is more what you see on control maps. Here on these escort maps, specifically on defense, you really have to be smart about your ultimate usage, your positioning. There's so much more at stake because the snowball is very real, especially here as we head into Rialto. I mean, it's a map where you can have full holds, you can have blazing times through for full completions. I mean, there's just so much that can really be done here. So it's one of my favorite escort maps. It has become that, and I'm looking forward for some more just intense action like we saw on Lijiang Tower.
Yeah, and speaking of what we saw on Lijiang Tower, we did get to see a little bit of Echo and a little bit of Pharah come out from Ignition and going into Rialto, seeing as heroes like McCree, Widowmaker, Ashe are a little bit more mechanically challenging on console. It can be a little bit more difficult to track or pinpoint accuracy, things like that. So those Echoes, those Pharahs, usually have a lot more free reign. Do you have any fear that might be an issue for Revamp going into this map?
I mean, that is entirely possible. I mean, hit scan proficiency, it's very, hit or miss, or can be at times on console specifically. I mean, there's a lot of talk about aim assist, but as someone who's played on PC and console, I definitely think that the aiming is very different and can sometimes be a little bit more complex. I don't want to say that's going to get me in such trouble with the PC community, but I will say that projectile players like Pharahs and Echoes, they can have a little bit more value in certain scenarios on console versus PC. And I mean, that's just Nightshade. We did see some subs coming in. That's important, for the DPS we're talking about. We do have Umioka coming in for Spiders. So Nightshade, I'm imagining, will be that hit scan player on the side of Ignition.
And Umioka onto the put her onto the Junkrat, yeah.
Yes, that's if you're familiar with the console scene, Umioka is the Junkrat of what was the tier 3 CGL scene, moving up into this upper division here with GitGud. So Junkrat's definitely something I think we could see. She gets a ton of value with it on almost any map she plays it. So I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
Alrighty. Well, we're gonna go ahead and throw it on into the map now. Looking at the beautiful, beautiful canals of Rialto as we take a look at our defending composition. There was no side swap, everybody. Ignition Inferno is still in the blue and Revamp is still in the red. So, well, what do we think here? What do we got? We got an Orisa Sigma, an Ashe Junkrat, and a Mercy Baptiste. I could call you a fortune teller based off of what you said. Yeah. There you go.
you know, it's, you know, you got to play to your strengths, and after a while, if you're familiar with players, you begin to see what their strengths are. But important to notice is this mismatch at the tank line, the double shield versus the brawl coming out from Swift and Guess Who. As we get to this, not this first corner right after the bridge, but the second corner, brawl becomes so viable because you have to be so aggressive into the enemy team, and that doesn't suit double shield well. So with these picks coming out early, this is really benefiting Revamp.
Oh man, I said there might be an issue with Revamp dealing with Farah? No! Revamp's gonna bring Farah to the table in a big way. Pinto with a huge opening kill.
Yeah, Pinto saying, I am the Farah now. And, I mean, just huge value. And this is really just creating all the space in the world for the rest of Revamp. I mean, look at this. They're pushed all the way back to that first checkpoint. Immortality field already coming out. I mean, good grief. Now this is the chance for Ignition now. They've got the picks.
Yeah, they've already taken out the Farah. They've taken out the Mercy as well. So now it's a 4v6, but the aggression coming out right now from Ignition Inferno in response, forcing Revamp to give up a lot of space.
Yeah, definitely, and that's, we saw there the double shield executed very well there. Nightshade popping off on the Ashe, that's going to get you a lot of, and we see it again. That's a nice pick on the Mercy. The stagger continues.
Nightshade continuing to put on a master clash, if you will.
Well, I don't know if I will, but he certainly will. But
I'm trying to find something on this opening angle. 80% to that ultimate. You do have both windows online.
And I do think Window will be a good play here, but I'm looking to see possibly combined with the Dragon. I mean, I've seen it combined with the Barrage. That's very difficult to do without, you know, basically certain death for Pinto on the Farah. But that'd be something cool to see.
Ignition is prepping for this tire. Finding herself in good position. She's going to go ahead and jump over and go for the big flank. Meanwhile, back on point, Rabbinic Flux looking to disrupt Revamp's push and doing so successfully. Siggy able to find himself a couple of easy kills. And then Mioka, successful flank, but no need to use that Junkrat tire. Her team can go ahead and clean up the rest.
And that's a very just a well-won fight, being able to save that ultimate that Umioka was getting into position before, because now you're looking at the supercharger coming online, and you're going to need it because you've got 5 ults on the side of Revamp. This is the fight that I really think they're able to break this open and get this first checkpoint here, just because, I mean, the sheer ult advantage, this grab.
Defensive positioning, there's the Graviton, the barrage almost comes out, but Nightshade finds the headshot! Pinto not able to support Guess Who on that Graviton, and guess what? Ignition wins the fight!
And that's phenomenal. You use 1 ult, you get out 2 ults, you win the fight. You've got Bob coming online now. That's going to be great for point control, really allowing you to play off of this point if you need to. That just suits your double shield comp so well if you're the side of Ignition. Meanwhile, Revamp, you know, this Shatter, you know, getting through these double shields here in this tight choke areas of Rialto, it's going to be difficult. But the healing could be from Analog Kick with the amplification matrix that's online.
Supercharger and Doctor both getting brought out, but Guess Who's going to take care of the Supercharger as they commit the window into this engagement. Revamp looking to take some ground in the courtyard as Pinto finds 3. One with the Immortality field, of course. But Pinto shooting up into the skies here on this attack as Bob tries to get something done in the back line. Not much is going to come to fruition. Nothing going to bring Swift back into the fight as Kai wins the Ashe duel with Nightshade, as well as the kill on the Snivy.
And Slow and Steady won the race there. I mean, the picks were early for Ignition, but it was Revamp weathering the storm, and now they're looking strong on point, but this will be a recontest coming out from Ignition. Big Shatter.
Sorry, from Ignition there. Off the back of that Shadow, the window is there, but the damage from Revamp is going to be able to overpower. It's just sitting on the handle, but he's stuck with so much crowd control, he can't even move. There's the Ashe finally on point. Look at that. That's going to be it there. Ignition Inferno is going to be able to... Sorry, Revamp is going to be able to take that first point.
Yeah, and that was just you know, winning the fight, playing the comp well. Noticing Guess Who's switching over to this Sigma now. You know, this seems to be kind of replacing Ryan Zarya as the new sort of brawly comp with the Ryan Sigma. You know, this is going to be a dry fight coming in for Revamp. This could be good for Ignition if they're aware of that. They can save ultimates, but they're already getting picked early.
Oh, Nightshade gonna get taken out early, but luckily the res is there to keep that DPS in play. They have taken the corner, the L'Angolo de la Muerte. Corner of death, ladies and gentlemen. On the back of this Riptire, Umi was like, hey,
Tire,
Nando was like, guess what? I got 2 kills.
Somebody's closer. Yes, but yes, that was just, I mean, very good second basic point before coming out for Revamp. I mean, look at all these ults that Revamp has coming online. You've got, you know, 4 ults to just the 2 really on the side of Ignition. This is looking great for Revamp.
Yes, who gets taken out there over on the side by what looks like a direct shot. Great play by Nightshade, who now has the bomb online. Early in the engagement is going to allow Kai to go ahead and bring Bob into the equation for Revamp. After see about the they're going to allow him to secure a couple more kills and bust a couple more shields. That one taking every money back into the fight to put a 6-man team back in play for Ignition Inferno. Revamp continues to push this payload with what little time they've got left.
Well, they've done a great 2-minute time bank right now coming into this corner. I mean, that can all go away very quickly. It is so easy to solve at this point. But that's a huge flux coming out from Guess Who. But the Immortality Field from Sleepy, it's there. Yumioka's going to start it off.
But a big shatter off on the right-hand side is going to allow Swift to fight Umi and open the door wide for Revamp on this attack. There's a window down for a minute, but he's not getting the job done. Now the shield is there, and the damage is done. Revamp and Ignition both at an even body count, trying to duke it out here on the payload, but Nintendo gets another tire. He's got the damage with the shield. Sleepy alive as Umi looks to respond with a tire of her own. Finds Guess Who. Now the man advantage plus the respawn advantage goes to Ignition as Kai tries to fight back for Revamp. Never find a couple of kills, but it's a little bit of CC there, and that's going to be it for them. Revamp with a couple of members still on the point, but with respawns in their favor, Ignition should be able to grab a hold of this fight.
Well, by the end of that, it was firmly in hand for Ignition on the defense there, but I really don't know how they sustained it that long. I mean, I thought Stiggy was going down to that Riptire coming out from Pinto, and now you look at it, Stiggy online with the Graviton Flux, Pulse Bomb not far behind. If played correctly, that could be a very big combo. Amplification Matrix, though, with the bomb, this is a lot of DPS potential about to be online for Revamp.
Over the mid flash and then the first ultimate to get things started, but straight into the Immortality Field is gonna get negated, but the damage is still there. Umi and Sleepy both able to find themselves a kill, and that's gonna be it. 3 men down for Revamp as the Ignition Inferno continues to hold firm.
I really think the big mismatch here is coming out at the support line. I really think that one kid and Sleepy's Mouse are just providing a lot more healing with the Brig Moira comp here. As you're required to fight in the close corners, you're instantly giving that Brig value, and it's really paying off for them, I think, on this defense.
Well, their defense is going to be coming to a full
What a good charge.
Guess Who got there just in time to hit that overtime counter. Swift as well has the shatter. Got his healers. Highboy gets on point with the bomb. 3 already down for Revamp. Swift gonna be in charge of a really big comeback. He gets taken out there. Oh no, he's still alive. They're at the very end, but a total left coming out from Sleepy. Closes the door in Revamp's face. Riptire from Pinto getting taken out by Umi's Riptire. That's going to be the kills that are needed for Ignition Inferno to hold this defense firm, but what a push from Revamp.
Yeah, that really was a fantastic push. I mean, getting through that second stint, it's so easy to get stalled out on that corner of death, as you said, and, you know, they just rushed through it with ease. I mean, you know, while there is a win condition, you know, up on the board for Ignition, this is going to be quite a mountain to climb because Revamp has set the bar very high, and just looked very good doing it. So I think, you know, depending on what we see on this defense, this could be Revamp's chance to get back into the series and tie it up.
Very impressive push indeed. They had a little bit of trouble, like I said, at the first point, but really, once they got through that choke, there was no stopping them until that very last point.
And again, I think that just goes back to the support lineup. That one kid in Sleepy's Mouse. I mean, there's close walls. There's great ability for Moira to bounce those healing and damage orbs off. Quick ult generation. great healing output in the close proximity. You combine that with a brig. I mean, the Revamp was forced to play into the brig. I mean, that's automatically given that Inspire proc time and all that value. I mean, it really just, you put all that together, and that really, I think, provided a great basis for Ignition to basically mount their defense upon. But looking ahead, I mean, I like seeing more of the same on the attack with the Brig Moira, because you are going to be playing into the enemy team. And, you know, that aggressiveness that we saw on Control from Ignition, that's might serve them well here on this attack.
The Widowmaker, a interesting pick going into a double shield composition.
Yeah, I don't know how you're going to hit shots.
Well, able to hit the first shot pretty well. However, it's taking a lot of damage. Nightshade gonna have to back off on that Widowmaker action as Ignition continues to push his payload, getting towards the first problematic corner. The Revamp has a pretty controlling aura around it right now.
This is I like the Junkrat picks coming out from both sides, especially here on these alleys. There's such great areas to lob these bombs up, and I mean, you're already seeing kills coming out for Pinto and Umioka. It's really going to fall to these hit scan players to start providing the value, and we're seeing it now with Kaiboy.
Yeah, Kaiboy able to best Nightshade there, and Ignition Inferno not really having the same oomph on attack as they had initially on defense.
No, and this is exactly the positioning for this double shield. I mean, you're not holding at that second corner where it's so easy to progress. You know, you're creating a lot of space to kite back. And now in the meantime, you know, you do have, you've got the Valkyrie coming online, Pinto getting that big pick there, but Pinto's got the Rip Tire. You've got some portals coming online. I mean, this defense is looking good. Big!
Oh, man, Pinto, that was just nasty.
Yeah, that was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, that just blew me away. You're able to get that value out of that ult, and it does look like we have a leave. There will be a brief pause while we get that player back in. But
I have it on good authority that we'll be back in a few moments.
I trust that source of yours. But what are you thinking so far of this defense coming out from Revamp, Steidl?
I am a big fan of it. Pinto has been absolutely destroying it. The big one for me right now is actually Guess Who on this Sigma. Has been logging in the accretions, the rocks, as well as those primary fires, and securing kills regularly in these team fights. So playing much less of like a shielding role, but really allowing Swift to get those shields down and maintain those, and just using his for the small cooldown that may be there, and then primarily DPS.
Oh no, I couldn't agree more. He's definitely an unsung hero, I think, on this defense. I mean, filling that off-taker so well, but it does look like we're back.
Well, a little unlucky for that one kid. He got cut out. Luckily, he was able to get out of the way. There's his bomb. Nightshade finding Kaiboy, finding another, and now that Nightshade offers a Widowmaker onto the axe, now having a much bigger impact in the game. Guess Who trying to stay alive on this thing that has that Davidic Flux, as well as the pocket from Analog. Both Analog going down. Guess Who's going to have to be completely out of this engagement. Hopefully he'll be able to stay alive.
Yeah, I don't know how Guess Who stays alive as long as he did. I don't know if the contest can come through here. You know, that disconnection really just, I think, opened the door for Ignition, and they kind of got a little bit of a freebie on that first attack. And now we see Kaiboy, he's riding the ship, so to speak.
Yeah, he was like, you know what, fine, we'll give you that first point, but how about we just, like, no bridge. You don't get to go back through the bridge. You don't get to cross.
Yeah, we'll raise you one spawn camp for another, basically. You know, it's good play, and you know they've got the ults to back it up. You're very limited in the chokes, in the ways of attacking this if you're Ignition. So Pinto's going to get a ton of value on this tire, I feel like. Indeed.
Oh, the ult into the tire. Pinto finding two, but the setup from Swift was just as swift as their death.
That is how you enable a Junkrat if you're in Orisa. I mean, that textbook. You can't get much better than that. And in the meantime, that was one ability and an ultimate for a one fight. You've got 5 ults online. Umioka, I mean, one good turn deserves another. I could expect a big tire here as well. The question is getting in position for it.
Bob gets sent in, but they're gonna go ahead and dupe their own Bob by using that Gravitic Flex as he runs into the back line way back. But the kill is still coming through for Revamp here as they continue to use that ult bank, using Coalescence and Valkyrie to continue to win this fight, and they really do not want to give Ignition Inferno any distance.
No, they're doing an excellent job holding this bridge, just having an oppressive positioning. And I mean, at this point, the Widow's going to have to start getting some value to justify that pick going forward, because I mean, you're really getting just stalemated right here on this bridge.
Oh man, and sad day with guess who? That mobile shield so good at zoning out the flanks from the Widowmaker. Big pull off the side almost puts Ignition Inferno into the water as they continue to struggle to get this payload across the bridge. Kaiboy is going to take Wary Bunny out, and on this bridge, without that Reinhardt, you can't do anything.
What a shutdown! Oh my gosh, Umioku was poised to kill basically the majority of Revamp, and that was just a big shutdown coming out from Pinto. Good grief.
Kaiboy continuing to win the hit scan battle. Here, Revamp showing a completely different side.
Yeah, we're seeing the key mismatch in Ashe versus Widow. And now Nightshade has gone over to the Ashe, but you saw just how much more value Kaiboy gets. You know, putting in value, winning the sniper battle at times, but putting in way more damage into the body itself of Ignition, and that's the value you need. I mean, Kaiboy is lighting up this kill feed. I mean, ult's back online for the DPS of Revamp. I mean, this is just a oppressive hold right now. Impressive, oppressive, like just use all the civs.
And I'm usually on the blue side. But yeah, Revamp. They still have ultimates. They're guess who? Gonna have that Gravitic Flex soon again?
I don't know what Ignition's doing. They've kind of been beating around the bush, but they do have a pick to open the door. The carry, Kai, going down.
Oh, there goes another pick onto Analogic. So now, up 6v4. They have the opening they need to get a little bit of payload momentum going. And if they're lucky, they can stagger these kills in across the next couple of corners and avoid one of the more difficult corners of the map, the corner of death.
Oh, this infamous corner, it just keeps coming up. But I mean, look at this defense. You've got 5 going on 6 ults coming online. I mean, you know, you've got Time Bank on your side. You've got a perfect area here once you get through this corner. You know, give it up. Let them have it for free, and then position yourselves for a great final fight. And that's exactly what they're going to do.
Oh, wow. Pinto finds 3 with the tire again. Guess who finds 2, and that's it for you. Revamp not going to be able to do much about this. Oh, no, the kill's continuing to come through. And man, Ignition just not able to find themselves the push they needed.
Sure, and that was a statement victory on that map coming out from Revamp. I mean, you know, they looked very strong on Lijiang. They just, came out on the back end, I think. And I think we're really seeing the prime form of Revamp coming out. Kaiboy, Pinto, just getting a ton of value. I mean, the ult game was always in favor of Revamp. And I mean, it was never really in question. Even giving up as much time as they did on that first checkpoint, they still, I mean, it was like it didn't even matter.
No, it didn't. And, that was one thing that we talked about earlier about, Ignition Inferno's ult economy. They like to commit a lot of ults to fights that they don't necessarily need to. And now, a perfect example of what happens when you only commit the ults that are needed for the fight you're in.
It really, I mean, it was a very controlling performance. That's really all you can say about Revamp there. And I like the tank play. I think that's a linchpin in any good comp. And I think Swift and Guess Who, they've just been doing work on that double shield comp, and they definitely have a strong understanding of what they're trying to do when they run that, and that's just paying off for them big time.
Definitely is. So hopefully it's going to continue paying off for them, because we're moving to a map that is, of course, a little bit more brawl-centric. It is the favorite of most Overwatch players that I know. In fact, the famed King's Row.
Ah, yes, King's Row. You
go ahead and take
Scrim's Row.
See what composition we get.
Yes, yes. I would allow it. If that was the deal where it's like, all right, Rollock's in effect, but anytime you get King's Row, Install goats. Like that's the deal. Because it's just so fun. It's iconic. But sadly, we won't be seeing that. But that doesn't mean we won't see some Rhine Zarya. Possibly Rhine Sigma. I know that is kind of taking prevalence, but I think, I mean, if there was ever a map to run Rhine Zarya on, it's King's Row. Brawl's still very alive and well here. I love what we've been seeing in some of the recent pro and thereabout pro levels of play, where we've been seeing a lot of Genji on King's Row, and that's really cool to see. We haven't seen any Genji yet so far this series. That's important to note. So if there was ever a time for some Genji, it'd definitely be right here on King's Row, I'd say.
Well, we are going to go to a very quick break, ladies and gentlemen, but we will be right back with the action between Ignition and Revamp on King's Row. And we're back, everybody. If you're just tuning in, we are currently in the middle of some Overwatch fisticuffs. We have Revamp and Ignition facing off. It's a 1-1 in a first 3. And we do have a couple of substitutions for those of you that were here for the last match. Jinx is going to be coming in for Pinto, and Infinite is going to be coming in for Binto. So if you were hoping to see more of that Junkrat from Pinto, you're going to have to stay tuned for another map, because he's not going to be here on King's Row. But, Hamwell, these substitutions, what kind of impact do you think we're going to see from these? Oh. Looks like we might be experiencing a couple of technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. Forgive the man. He will at some point figure it out, and we'll hear his sweet, sweet voice once again. But we are going to be going to King's Row, so no doubt we're going to be seeing these two teams take up the Zarya Reinhardt mantle, or possibly the Sigma Reinhardt mantle. We talked about that. Oh, he's here! Oh, you're here. Hi.
Yeah, I love how things will work for 1 second and then you blink and suddenly they don't work anymore, and I'm just like, all right. But back to the point at hand, musical chairs from the projectile DPS role of Revamp, and I mean, the switch has always been an improvement so far. I mean, you start off strong with Atomic, you get the victory with Pinto, and I mean, who's to say this won't be even more dominating? I mean, who could say? But and also important to note, in our Spider coming in for Nightshade, I feel like we saw in our Spider coming in a bit more for the Ash roll, it seemed like, on that control map. So maybe we could see that. That definitely was providing a lot of value. Kaiboy on the side of Revamp. But, I like the solidarity coming out in the tank and support line. I really feel like different looks in DPS can behoove you, but it can be very difficult to adjust to different tank strategies and support strategies. And you get used to, certain play styles. So that solidarity, I think, serves both of these teams very well.
And speaking of the tank play, we're not seeing those guys switched out. You very often only see, the supports or the DPS, maybe the off-tank role switched out. These guys playing together for as long as they have, that synergy gets built up, and that's what really builds into, that fantastic duo of tank play between that off-tank and the main tank. If you had to choose one of the two, because we're at 1-1, would you go with Swift and Guess Who, or Wary Bunny and Stiggy? Who's your tank duo? Who are you looking for?
Goodness, I mean, man, you're putting me on the spot because
hot seat.
Stiggy and Weary will aggressively come at me on Twitter if I don't pick them. But so far this series, I mean, just really, I think it's Rialto possibly leaving that idea in my head. But I mean, the double shield looked very strong from Revamp. But I mean, we're going to King's Row. Brawls looked good. Ball from Stiggy, it looked good. These are all things that could serve them well on King's Row. So, it's tough, but I'm going to give it to Weary Bunny and Stiggy. I will. I'll cave. I'll cave just a little bit. It's very close though.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we are getting ready to go ahead and go on in to the action, ladies and gentlemen. So we're not going to have to worry about, stipulations and predictions, because we're about to get to see the real deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, conjecture and speculation, it's all fine and good, but all that matters is the results. And you know, I'm looking forward to see this hit scan battle. We've got a new one coming up. You know, it was Nightshade versus Kaiboy. Now we've got in our Spider going up against Kaiboy, and Kaiboy, you know, looking very solid there on Rialto. So I'm interested to see if the situation can change there. Meanwhile, I love what I'm seeing. Ryan Zarya. You've got a Sleepy's Mouse playing the Moira. That's a very strong pick for Sleepy. Just from what I know personally, I'd say one of the better calmers in the console scene, just as far as their comms. Moira definitely a strong hero from them. But I do love USC Infinite on the Ana. I mean, you know, nanoing a Reinhardt in this brawl comp. I mean, that's just devastation rampant.
And also definitely interesting to note, Jinx coming in for Pinto, going to be on that Junkrat skill. Big anti-cheat from Infinite to start things off.
It's interesting that we're seeing Jinx on the similar role to what Pinto was playing and doing very well at.
Well, already up to 37%, Jinx holding their own on the Junkrat.
Indeed.
As Spider trying to find this off angle on the Widowmaker. Still not able to pay dividends just yet, getting themselves caught up in a little bit of tree climbing. He's going to find that open kill onto Analog, and that is going to get things started, get the trap onto Zarya. But a big charge from Weary Bunny going to take Jinx out of the equation and give the point to give the point over to Ignition.
Yeah, that was great awareness by Weary Bunny to seal off Kaiboy there on the Ashe. I mean, we've seen how devastating that Kaiboy can be. So, you know, just sealing that off, recognizing the threat, that's really going to help, you know, really ensure there's no recontest inbound, and they're going to move forward with gusto.
And you know, this Widowmaker coming out of Spider really hasn't been getting the big flashy kills, and still being able to put in reliable damage from that Widowmaker. But Kaiboy has an answer for it. He's gonna go ahead and say, you know what? I'm sorry, I was a little rusty because of that 3-minute break. I need a little bit of warm-up time. And Revamp, gonna go ahead and revitalize their defense.
Yeah, and this should be very frightening if you're Ignition, because this is shades of deja vu from what we saw in Rialto, where you know, Revamp, they give up the point, or they give up the first checkpoint in Rialto's case, and then do an aggressive, you know, spawn campish hold. And look at this.
The Bob getting caught up in the Graviton and then just left to be dealt with. Ignition Inferno, no choice but to back away from that ultimate and go ahead and let that grab go unsupported.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate. I mean, you know, it's important to land big grabs, but you don't want to catch a Bob in there. That's going to just, you know, completely stop your Ryan from swinging. You're not going to get the value. And now, you know, Spider switching over to this Mei. I do like this pick to sort of break this chokehold that the defense has.
Oh, there's the aggression. Another Graviton comes out. Same with the Riptire coming from Umi. Taking their sweet, sweet time to find their destination. Looks like Umi will get caught out into the back line, so Kaiboy continuing to step it up on this DPS role for Revamp.
Yeah, and it looks... Oh, wow, Kaiboy. I was wondering if that kill was going to finish. I mean, you know, this is just an unfortunate stagger now for Ignition. Like, they're not getting their numbers. They need to regroup. I mean, this is just, again, the defensive prowess of Revamp is alive and in full form so far we've seen from this second and third map.
Definitely. When it comes to not allowing a payload to go anywhere, Revamp is the team you need to call. Oh no, but the Maywall going to put Swift into a very tricky position. He's going to commit the Shatter and get some Nano. Shatter not going to find much. The Nano, however, will save his life as he blocks the Shatter from Weary Bunny. Oh no, it's a sad day for Ignition Inferno as they continue to aggress on to Revamp. Bob comes out to help out in the front line. He's able to take Swift out with the help of Weary Bunny, and that's it for Ignition Inferno's attack. Revamp once again stabilizing here on the defense.
Yeah, and looking forward, I mean, you know, guess who with that grab? That's going to be huge this next fight, you know, keeping the charge really high. In our Spider playing very aggressive without the team here. Inadvisable considering that freeze is going to be the big ult, I think, that could break this fight open for Ignition.
Oh, Spider getting in there, be able to get the freeze out as the Graviton gets shut by guess
Oh
who?
my goodness.
Oh, Jinx coming from a tire on high, able to find the beautiful, beautiful 3K.
That was intense, and I mean the prowess we saw on map 1 from Ignition, it is crumbling, and Revamp have hit their stride. there is a ray of hope now for the side of Ignition. You've got Umioka coming online with that Riptire, as well as Sleepy's Mouse with the Coalescence. These are two ults that can really provide a ton of value and damage. And if this is executed well, this could be the break that Ignition needed.
So there goes the Coalescence, allowing them to push a little bit further. Stiggy now has the Graviton as Umi commits Riptire into another 3K. And this is just a battle of which Junkrat can get more 3Ks in a single map.
It seems that way. I mean, the tires from both Jinx and Umioka have just been impeccable. And, I mean, the only problem, though, is that it's not been quite enough for the attack side of Ignition. And, I mean, this defensive just stand, I mean, it's back-to-back stands, really. We're looking at it on the defense for Revamp. And it's just, they're holding up impressively well.
It seems that every corner is just another opportunity for Revamp to chip another 10, 15 seconds off. And as I say that, the payload rounding its second corner met with Bob to stop its movement. An Analog even going into the backline on that Lucio to find the Mercy. That one kid not able to help Ignition out in this engagement.
And that's a big pick by Kaiboy with that headshot onto Spider. But, I mean, that just kind of understates, the difference in the Ashe play so far this series. I mean, Kaiboy's been really uncontested. Some pressure's got to be applied to them if Ignition are going to have any chance of really getting the seconds in. I mean, you're looking at 35 seconds now at this point. These ultimates, though, Graf, Tire inbound, hopefully. That would be a great play.
Grab committed, and they have a little bit of healing, but it's just not enough. But a grab coming out from Guess Who is a little bit bigger as Kaiboy has the damage to back it up. Umi able to find a kill from the Riptire up on the high ground and drops in behind. Oh, USC not able to stay alive as those Junkrat mines demolish you if you're not looking for them.
Wow, that was a bit of a carry coming out from Umioka. I mean, the Tire, it could have been big. The Tire was, I mean, that was huge. They needed to get back on the payload there, but Umioka hits that Tire onto the Ashe that was certainly going to kill her, and then that just allows her to land down on the point and just rain mayhem down with the Junkrat. And now, that's exactly what Ignition needed. They've got a checkpoint. They got a minute and a half in the bank, and now they've got signs of life, but they are not out of the woods yet.
Definitely not. Still more trees to cut down, but Bob's going to go ahead and run in head first. But in the back line, Jinx is writing another story of death and destruction with that Riptire.
And this is a good opportunity for Ignition. They've got a chance to soft reset and gain a little bit of progress while they wait for the rest of their team. Spider switching over to the McCree looked like a bit of an echo tease there for a minute, but Nano coming online for USC after that. I mean, you throw that on the Reinhardt like it's been, and that's going to be huge.
Oh! And
oh my
goes
goodness.
The big Reinhardt with the TNT, gonna take them out of the fight and allow the Shatter to just demolish Ignition Inferno. Swift with the big play, and Ultimate's still in the bank for Revamp.
Yeah, I mean, it's two ultimates for a one fight like that, 30 seconds on the clock. Now, there are the ults. These are some big game-changing ults online for Ignition. But this could all be cast asunder if Guess Who lands a big grab. I mean, that sound barrier could negate the Riptire as well. Look at that ante! Oh my goodness! That was monstrous.
Knock knock. Guess who? GG.
That name fits. That name fits. That was monstrous. I mean, USC Infinite though. The real, I mean, the grab was huge, but that nade, I mean, you just saw the screen light purple for Ignition, and it was over. I mean, that is a dagger to the heart on any attack there in overtime.
Man, Ignition Inferno going to have to mount quite the defense against Revamp, a team that has really picked up some momentum here.
Yes, momentum. I mean, that's really all you can say about Revamp right now. I mean, they are rolling. That was a great turn of events for them, having back-to-back defenses, I feel like, because they're just in such a great sync defensively. And now the question is going to be, can they turn around? Can they be aggressive on the attack? This is still very much winnable for Ignition, but they're going to need to have a very strong opening point hold, and they're going to need to do something similar to Revamp and get a nice hold going through the alleyways of that first objective for the payload. I mean, this
Hey, if they
is
do
a
it
tall
right,
order.
they're not even gonna get there.
This is true. This is true. I'm interested. I thought we were going to see Ryan Winston coming out on the attack. There has been some rumblings I've heard about the viability of Ryan Winston. I'm not as much of a big fan of it. Maybe on Eichenwald, but classic brawl. I love the Lucio Ana. Brig Bap coming out for the defense. Now that's going to give you a lot of sustain. But Kaiboy, good grief, that's a huge dig on a Zarya. Stiggy, what are you doing, my guy?
Inferno, they came out with a Widowmaker of their own with Spider on the attack, and he did not do nearly as much as Kaiboy. Oh, he's crazy. Finding 2 now. 2 shots.
Look at this.
2 headshots. 3 shots. 3 headshots. 4 shots. 4 kills. Oh, and Kaiboy is going insane. He's looking for the 6K. If it wasn't a Hammond, I feel like it would have been in his pocket. What did I just watch?
That was a tale of 2 widows here on this Kings Row first point. I mean, Spider, non-existent presence, I felt like, on the attack for Ignition. And then you look at Kaiboy. I mean, Kaiboy's been popping off on the Ashe all series, and now switching over to the Widow. That was a carry. That was some Carpe-esque level stuff coming out in GitGud. And I mean, look at it now. That fight was so fast, no one's really got their ultimates online. It's just Kaiboy gonna have that tactical visor coming online.
Oh, there's Kaiboy once again, peeking around.
Oh,
Trying to get those really
attack visor.
They're similar. You can see people with them.
Yes, they both involve your eyes.
There we
So
go.
I was in there. Nano on the Widow. What have we witnessed?
Kaiboy not able to contribute too much while this nano boost is on there. He's looking for the head, but only finding shield. And once again, D.Va going up to the top to deal with him, and Stiggy has found a way to shut Kaiboy out of this Widowmaker.
Yes, and I'm surprised Stiggy with the Widow. I'm surprised with the switch to D.Va didn't happen sooner. Stiggy's a very strong D.Va player for most of his console career. So I mean, something's got to be done about Kaiboy. Meanwhile, let's guess who doing all the Widow cleanup.
Is it enough? Because with Guess Who playing that Zarya at such high charge so consistently, that D.Va has to be difficult to play into it.
Oh yeah, I mean, Stiggy's not going to be able to be anywhere near Guess Who, and that doesn't necessarily break this comp, because you need Stiggy to be all up in USC Infinite's face, all up in Kaiboy's face, sucking up Jinx's damage. I mean, this is all stuff you need.
Oh. Another early pick, and Revamp continuing to move this payload with relative ease through Kings Row. Continuing to find picks when that golden box of victory is not very far away from where the payload currently stands. They'll find the next checkpoint, and they're also going to find an unprepared Ignition Inferno still waiting for respawns.
Oh no.
No, Stiggy! Oh, man.
Oh.
And they were able to bait out and block that charge, meet it with a Graviton, and change the map. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. Revamp will be taking
That was just, oh man, you almost feel for Ignition there at the very end. I mean, everything went wrong as they're trying to recontest that. And Revamp, I mean, they're just their top-notch performance there, and they've turned it around. Impressive. And you talked about him earlier. Guess Who? GG. You talked about him before this round, Scheidel. I mean, an excellent prediction. I mean, you've been watching Guess Who all series, and I mean, it's just been exponential. I mean, you come out in Kings Row with the Zarya. This is a Zarya player if I've ever seen one.
Yeah. Oh man, Guess Who? 37 high energy kills in that map. Absolutely worthy of an MVP vote. Oh,
and
vote.
Look at USC.
Get him a vote. You can also vote for him.
Did you see USC Infinite though? About
Yes.
17k healing. 50% of the team's damage taken was healed by USC Infinite. I mean, that's literally half the damage. That is all in all. Just, I mean, I don't care how good a team is. I mean, when you're putting out that kind of numbers, you're going to be, near unbeatable by just about anyone. And I mean, Revamp, they just very impressive performance on that map.
Very impressive performance indeed. A performance they're going to go ahead and need to carry on to Anubis after we go to this short break. So don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. What could be the final map is coming right up. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for the best place for your console action. We here at ELO Hell are bringing you some top-notch play, and we have got a match for you today. It's 2-1 right now in the Ignition Revamp face-off. Revamp currently up 1 map. Hamwell, Kai Boy last map.
Kai Boy last map. I mean, the Widowmaker play. Top-notch. Spectacular. Very good, very good. You know, and we got a 2-1 scoreline. You know, as my old varsity soccer coach used to say, you know, that's the most dangerous score in soccer, and I think that kind of bodes well into Overwatch as well. I mean, anything can happen. I mean, will Revamp maintain the momentum? They're on a 2-0 run right. They're on a 2-0 run right now after dropping map 1, coming back strong on maps 2 and 3. So I mean, momentum is the name of the game, and they've got all of it right now, and it's really it's their match to lose at this point. They're in the driver's seat. They have match point, but Ignition, we've seen flashes of strength from them, and they're not out of this yet. And they've got, a fresh set of reserves coming in, reinforcements, as it were, full tanks in the stamina department. You've got Webb's band coming in for Ignition, as well as Venus the Savior making another appearance, and Nightshade coming back in on that hit scan role, versus Pinto coming back in for Revamp. And we saw Pinto and Rialto look so good. We're gonna see what he can do on Anubis, and you've got Yummy Bento Box coming in on support as well. But still alive and well is this tank line for Revamp. You've got Swift and Guess Who, and I mean, you called it. I mean, I gotta give all the props to you. You predicted it perfectly. I mean, Guess Who has been a staple so far in this Revamp team.
Very early on, saw the play, and I was like, you know what? Guess Who? They know. They look like they know what they're doing, and I've only watched them for 2 or 3 minutes. That's somebody that I can go ahead and put my stuff behind, and proven true. Guess Who? Even on that Zarya, really able to shine. But even here on this Diva, I completely expect Guess Who.
Yeah, I love that we're seeing this depth in the off tank role coming out from Guess Who as well. Meanwhile, the attack coming out for Ignition, you've got Nightshade on the Ashe, Umioka reprising that Junkrat role, Weary Bunny on the Orisa with Webs on the Sigma, and then Venus the Savior, that all-important Mercy. We've seen that work so well for them on Lijiang Tower, so let's see if it can pay dividends here.
Ooh, Pinto trying to use that Concussive Blast to dislodge the defense on the high ground, and able to do so successfully, and pushing Ignition into a bit of a reposition, and they're able to find Nightshade out while they do it. Are going to go ahead and spin that res.
And I mean, this is kind of stalled the point out as these teams decide, are they going to fight on high ground or come down to Ignition's level?
Incident here, working on the Ana, keeping the team healthy. Revamp, able to find the first kill onto Venus, and now without that Mercy, Ignition Inferno from the hot seat and into a very difficult position as Swift moves into swinging distance with the nano booster on his back. What a play! They're gonna be able to find 3, 4, 5 kills and Revamp with a very quick take. 2 minutes and 51 seconds. I mean, more than that because I gotta catch him. Never mind.
I mean, good grief. USC Infinite farmed that nano. I mean, that's pretty easy to do when you're, healing 50% of your team's damage, I mean, on that Ana. But that just allows Swift to go in, get a ton of value. You've got that Shatter online now. You've got Pinto coming online with that Barrage. I mean, Shatter Barrage, if Pinto can get into a crafty sort of position here, this could be really huge for the stack. Meanwhile, though, Umioka and Nightshade, they've got their DPS ults online with that one kid on the Amplification Matrix. So, I mean, definitely a good chance to stop the snowball here, but it's going to require precision on the side of Ignition.
Yep, and we've been talking a lot about ult economy throughout this day, and ultimate economy is so much more important on 2CP maps than any other place. As you come into these point engagements, you really do need to combine those ultimates in the proper fashion at the right time in order to mitigate respawns and take control of the point.
Oh, so true. And I mean, seeing Nightshade come out early with that Bob, I mean, that's just a free ult given away here on the defense. I mean, fortunately, you've got more ults coming online, but all the while, this just setup coming out from Revamp has allowed a lot of ults to come online.
Oh man, and Ash able to find a quick in to the pharmacy as Swift going to continue on point with that nano boost, even though the rest of Revamp was already in the graveyard.
And I mean, with the way Infinite's been charging these nano boosts, I mean, there's a good chance we're going to see it again in either the next fight or the one after. But that one fight, that one fight gave a nice ult economy over to the side of the defense of Ignition, and now you've got Supercharger with the Riptire, with the Flux, the Amplification Matrix. You got a lot of value you can work with. It's a lot of DPS output. And I'm just interested to see if they're going to run with the Flux Amplification Matrix for optimal damage during that, or what's at play here.
Well, Bob's going to be the entrance for Revamp. He's going to get hit with the shield and a rock very early on, but Kai's able to find Weary Bunny out as their Gravitic Flux finds the few. Inferno now trying to stabilize. They've lost 3, and a big tire from Umi is going to help them do so, but Pinto is still finding kills on this Pharah. It just won't be enough.
Yeah, great ultimates all day coming out from Uyoka on that Junkrat. And really, you only use the tire and the Amplification Matrix. You get Bob back. You're not looking at much on the side of Revamp. You know, you did have some switches. Kaiboy going over to the Genji. You've got Guess Who on that Zarya now after using self-destruct that last fight. So, I mean, this is going to be a bit of a dry run coming out for Revamp. They're going to try and build these ults. I'd look for USC Infinite to possibly use Nano this fight to maybe get Swift back up to a Shatter. Maybe you use that to help Pinto farm up a Riptire of his own.
Oh, man. Swift not going to need too much help from the Nano Boost as he lands a large Fire Strike, putting him in a tricky position. Umi going to go ahead and take advantage of that as Ignition Inferno is going to be able to stifle yet another attempt of an attack from Revamp.
And all of this is really benefiting Revamp at this point because, you know, they're establishing control. They're building up ultimates, and with those switches that came in, this really could present an opportunity for Ignition to snowball some of these ultimates and really press their advantage. I mean, you're already looking at the time bank down to 2 minutes. I mean, proper ult conservation here, which has been a bit of a challenge for Ignition. If they can pull it off here, this sets them up for a good chance to tie up our series.
Well, with that Nano Boost on behind them, Revamp's going to try and start this attack off. They've really been having a little bit of difficulty closing this space. Umi with a very big initial pick onto Infinite.
I mean, Umi's really, like the Junkrat here specifically on point B, it's just been spectacular. And now you've got another Riptire online. Infinite's been holding on to that Nano. I'm interested to see what the play is here. I'm imagining it's the Genji Blade, but Kaiboy's going to have to do a little bit more work to get that.
Oh, a little bit working deep. He's going to have to be careful while he does it. Rest of the team now beginning to pepper in their damage. He has exactly what he needs in his sights. The Dragon Blade now online, waiting for the call out from his Ana to unleash havoc upon the team. Swift finding a giant earth shatter into the entirety of Ignition Inferno. One that we just might see in play of the game. And Umi's trying to stabilize with that Riptire with Swift. He's able to swing freely with the healing right now from Venus, able to keep this Orisa alive. And thus their hopes at this defense. Dragon Blade coming out late to deal with the Stragglers, looking to heal onto the Mercy, but the Immortality skill is going to make that very difficult for this Genji. However, going to make it very easy for Revamp to find themselves on the point. The pop very late from Nightshade, plus a kill from Umi stabilizes for Ignition, and Revamp is going to have to come back into this with one ultimate.
I mean, and it oftentimes can be, you know, viewed questionable to use the Bob there at the end of the fight like Nightshade did, but I mean, no shields, such a cleanup, allowing your defense to get reset, and now, as you said, just one ultimate on the side of the attack, and you've got a nice flux that is, you know, as overtime looms ever closer, that could be a big value, but important to note, that lone ultimate for Revamp, it's Pinto with the Riptire, and we have seen Riptires left, right, and center come out this series, so I'm expecting a big one once again from Pinto.
Pinto looking for a place to set that up as the Gravitic Flux gets passed out and takes 2. Weave's been able to take out one of the supports, as well as one of the DPS as Revamp tries to find something big, is able to find Venus the Savior with that Riptire.
now it's up to Revamp's DPS and tank line to really shine through as Pinto finds a couple more kills, gets taken out by Nightshade.
Nice final fight there by Nightshade, really hitting his stride on the Ashe there, securing that kill. And now, Breath of Life coming out for Ignition. They've got the full hold. They've got the win condition. And, I mean, this is draw Anubis. I mean, I'm still thinking that this could possibly be a draw. But if there was ever a chance to tie this series back up, right now Ignition really is they're starting to pull that momentum back over onto their side.
Well, first things first, they are going to have to be able to best Revamp's defense here on the first point. And, you know, defense has been where we've seen Revamp shine.
Very true. I mean, the space, the inherent space provided by being on defense. I mean, Kaiboy has just thrived in that element. And I'm interested, Kaiboy coming out on the Bastion. Bastion Sim. Ooh, I like this. I like that we're going to see the... I can only imagine they're doing the teleporting to high ground Bastion strat, just back and forth. And, you know, that can provide a lot of chaos, a lot of diversion. And, you know, I like to say that Bastion, especially against Double Shield, is a gatekeeping comp where the only way Double Shield can really be successful against a Bastion is if you're, you know, using your rotations accurately. You're doing good shield management. Because if you're just a team that just throws your shields out, I mean, Bastion's just going to eat you alive. So Kaiboy really going to be putting the Double Shield of Weary Bunny and Webs to the test here.
Attackers incoming.
Okay, well, let's get things started. A Bastion in play, ladies and gentlemen. It's what you've all been waiting for. And there goes that Sigma shield, and he immediately broke it. Just as you said, putting that shield into that Bastion is not the best of ideas. But you know what? They're going to go ahead and take the note, use the environment to move themselves a little bit closer to point.
And this is the only way you really can succeed against this comp, is you need to get underneath them. And that's so far a questionable job of that at best.
Skyboy getting dangerously low. Gonna go ahead and rotate down to the low ground for the rest of this fight. Oh, he's able to find a very, very suspicious Baptiste into the back line, but not able to secure that kill. As they continue to hide in that doorway, looking for the escape route, and there it is! The teleporter hidden in the back stairs, allowing them to draw them to the back of the point and teleport the Bastion to the high ground.
I love that maneuvering there coming out from Kaiboy and Pinto. I mean, as you said, luring them into that back corner. And now, I mean, this is just all kinds of damage coming out. But Breath of Life, Ignition, they're weathering the storm, and they're coming back with a vengeance.
A vengeance indeed, and all the picks they need. Kaiboy was able to work himself up to 99% on that take ultimate, but not able to use the tank configuration. Would have been a different story if he had.
And look at this now, 5.5 minutes, 1 tick required. Kaiboy does have that tank configuration online, but Umioka, I mean, so far really I'd have to give player of the match so far, or of the map for Ignition. I mean, that defense, Umioka was everywhere all at once, and you know, if this tire can be big, this might be the break we need, and especially with Kaiboy using that tank configuration that early.
Kaiboy, no doubt, hoping that he's going to be able to bring another ultimate online soon, and a very quick kill on the Weavesman. Trying to find the Ashe onto the high ground, but the res on the Weavesman is going to put Ignition Inferno into a spot where they can very easily reposition, rethink, and come back at this fight.
Yeah, and I respect the dedication to the Bastion Symmetra here on defense, just because, I mean, you know, you've got the photon barrier coming online, but you know, a dry fight, I think that's perfectly in line with what Ignition's trying to do here. I mean, you know, what's more powerful than just getting 6 ultimates online and pressing Y all at once? The only problem is that Revamp might beat you to it.
Well, they're having a little bit of trouble right now as far as finding a way to get themselves in and on to the point. They have the Bob from Nightshade as well as a plethora of other ultimates. They're walking into a completely stacked Revamp, but Umi's going to find that opening kill on the Pinto once again. He's getting caught up in the Graviton, but there's a sound barrier, sorry, immortality field there to keep them alive, as Revamp now committing every single ultimate they have to keeping this point. Ignition losing a few members, but still have their Sigma on point. Oh no, they don't notice the Sigma into the backline trying to take out this Orisa. The Weave's now going to be hit with a bit of a stagger. Once this fight's over, Pinto on this far up, peppering in the rockets. All that really needs to happen there. Oh no! It looks like they might have caught Nightshade out.
Yeah, Nightshade getting caught out as well.
Yeah, and that's a rough stagger, but on the bright side now, Kaiboy switching over to the Mei. I like that switch. The Bastion did its job, provided the value, and now you're going to change up the look and kind of keep Ignition on their toes here. But the best thing in Ignition's favor right now is that they've got 2 tank ultimates online. Nothing really but the Valkyrie coming online here shortly for Revamp. And now this is definitely a winnable, a takeable fight here for 1 tick. But not starting off like that. I might have spoke too soon.
Venus, however, going to be able to right that wrong very quickly. And they're going to be able to put themselves back onto the path to the attack. Flex on to the point coming out from Weaves as they continue to push through. Immortality Field is going to make that null and void. A lot of ultimates still online for Ignition. Inferno as Bob enters the fray. On to the point of doom, he puts that Riptire into the back line, going to allow for supplemental damage to do its deed as Nightshade finds USC Infinite and then Pinto into the back line, looking for the Mercy kill as Bob's there to help the Ash. Nightshade now just has to deal with a couple of respawns, and the point will go to Ignition.
And I mean, really just fantastic knowledge of win conditions here coming out from Ignition as they tied the series up. You know, they made Revamp use you know, all the cards, you know, all the bullets in the chamber, whatever you want to call it, you know, force out all those ultimates, and then from there, just, you know, reap the rewards of a team, you know, with not much to combat there against the Flux, against the Supercharger, everything coming together. And Umioka, I mean, just huge Junkrat plays coming out, specifically on that defense. And I mean, that's definitely a big factor in keeping Ignition in it right now as we head to what is sure to be a fun-filled, action-packed Map 5.
That it is. And I just want to point out USC Infinite, 38% of team damage taken was healed this match. So keeping on track with being a fantastic Ana player. But
fantastic, yes, indeed.
Yeah. We've got one more map for you guys. We are going to be going to Nepal, but you got to stay tuned because we've got a short break before we get to the action. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our fifth and final. I can't count, guys. It's been a long day.
It's the last one.
Final map here between Ignition and Revamp. I don't really got to tell you what the score is. It's 2-2. But we've got some more action. Now last time that we went to a control map, we saw Ignition and their looseness with ult economy be a plus. Coming into this next map, now that Revamp's had a lot of time to kind of soak in how Ignition plays, do you think that's still going to come out as a pro, or is that possibly a con now?
See, that's the cool part about Control being your map 1 and your map 5, in my opinion, is the fact that you've learned so much about the team you're playing throughout the course of this series just to get to the map 5. So now it's like, is anything we saw on map 1, is it even viable anymore? Is it all out the window? Are we talking a whole new ball game? And more often than not, I feel that the latter is the case, is that you know, all the things we thought we knew based on map 1, they kind of go out the window. And I mean, you know, that kind of makes sense based on the fact that, you know, for the side of Ignition, you know, we do have a slightly different lineup. We do have Webbs in instead of Siggy, where we had Stiggy on off tank for map 1. But, you know, more of the same too, because, you know, Revamp running essentially the same roster. They do have Bento Box in. USC, I believe USC Infinite and Analog were in for map 1. Maybe Bento was in. It's hard to remember. It was so long ago.
Bento was in map 2.
Map 2. Very good. I knew it was early. But you see, we have slight changes, but DPS lines are the same. Revamp with that same tank line. I mean, that to me is going to be the difference maker, is Webbs versus guess who. Can Webbs even the playing field in that off-tank department? And I think we saw that for the most part, at least minimizing. I mean, guess who still had huge pop-off on Anubis, but it was a little bit more minimized, especially in times that counted. Yes, and in the times that mattered. And you know, Spider coming in for Umioka, I do understand that was you know, the DPS lineup for map 1 on Licheng Tower. However, Umioka, I mean, that to me is the reason her play on Junkrat's the reason that they're in this series right now, that they came back on Anubis. And so it's risky to me, you know, someone that's performing so well currently. I mean, Revamp hasn't had an answer for the Junkrat. And I mean, you can argue by the same token, Ignition hasn't had an answer for the Junkrat because Pinto, no slouch themselves on the Junkrat role. But at the same time, it just begs the question, why not, run with what was bringing you success, which, hard to argue, this DPS line did win map 1. So a lot of storylines at play here, and it's a lot to keep up with. Very, very intensive.
That is indeed. But we are about to go ahead and hop on into the action. Now, I do have to say, Atomic's hit scan so far has been pretty nutty. And
well, actually, Atomics is coming back in for map 1. Atomic was out and looked good on map 1. It's true.
5.
And coming up against Nightshade's Tracer, McCree is going to be ever so important.
Round 1.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Nightshade, a lot of focus is going to fall into Nightshade because you don't have the same shield capacity as Reinhardt if you're a reset, and you have no sort of extra protection in Azaria with your Roadhog. So a lot of pressure on Nightshade to draw a lot of attention into that backline, really kind of inversely create space for the tank line of Ignition.
Yep, and a composition that we have not seen coming out from many people as of late. The pulled pork at its brief.
I love it.
But you know what? I'm very happy to see it.
I was always a huge Clockwork Vendetta fan. I love to see pulled pork. It's a good combo.
Oh, and Webb's gonna go ahead and open up that pick. Spider having to be forced off to the side with Nightshade as this DPS duo is able to pick up everything that they need. Looking for the kill into Azaria. She's very low.
Wow, this is a really great DPS play coming out from Nightshade on the Tracer. And the Brig, that one kid getting into the mix. I mean, Brig, buff, nerfs or not, Brig's still in a strong place. And Ignition looking strong here as they take the first progress here on Nepal.
I mean, they've got the ults that they need to continue on to the next fight. They've been able to take the point, not only take the point, but they extended the fight past their take. So they got a little bit of extra time there.
And look at it now. I mean, in our Spider coming online with the Deadeye, playing defensively, there's a lot of positioning you can take with that. But Pinto, the Riptire, this is going to be huge. I mean, I loved seeing Guess Who hit that grab. I'd love to see those two paired together.
Oh, the High Noon getting popped off from the side, looking for a cheeky pick and finds one.
That's big. That's big.
Getting taken out very early on. And without your Reinhardt, with just Azaria, you've got no shield to protect your back line. But with a Graviton into the front line, what do you need it for? There's the Riptire finding that one kid. Coalescence is going to be coming out from both sides, the dualescence, if you will. They're going to be getting that one kill, but has to secure a lot more damage on the point to push Revamp into a controlling position. The kills continue to come through. Great charge comes out from Swift to set things up to knock Weaves down. Pushing forward now with that hammer swinging. Revamp finally has a little bit of hope in their hearts to take this point.
Wow, I was questioning Revamp even staying in this fight for as long as they have, but they did a soft reset, essentially right on point, and then they flip it back, and now, you're looking at Deadeye coming in, shoes on the other foot, Atomic hoping to get maybe something just as cheeky as Spider did, and Swift with the Shatter and the Coalescence, but Yummy Bento, he got really low there. Weary Bunny, also, important that this Supercharger, Pulse Bomb can provide the distraction. Supercharger can then allow the rest of your team to create space. There's a lot of stuff that Ignition can do to attack here, basically. But this High Noon, Spider with one again, off to the flank.
From the back, the Pulse Bomb from the front. They're able to find two with that duo, and right now Spider and Nightshade are the DPS duo of your solo queue dreams, able to find everything that they need and all that they want in this engagement. Revamp just not able to find the foothold to defend the point for as long as they hoped.
No, that and they definitely wanted more on that, and but on the bright side, this could be a pretty quick retake for Revamp, and because you've got Pinto coming online with that Riptire, Atomic still hang on to that Deadeye. I mean, I thought Atomic was going to use that fight in our Spider, jumped in line basically on the ult rotation, but all these ults coming online for Revamp is going to be 99%, but I think they can take the point back here.
Oh, Atomic trying to show them what it feels like. Finds Nightshade on the flank, unexpecting.
With that charge, Swift is going to take that one kid out, and there goes the supports as well. Venus doing a good job of keeping themselves alive here on the middle of the point up until they got flanked by Pinto on this Junkrat, who's continuing to dish out massive amounts of DPS. And Ignition, although losing the point at 99%, only one fight is stopping them from putting them 1 point away from victory.
That's still a really one fight too, by Revamp. You don't expend all your ults, you know, you've got some ground to work. Yummy Bento can farm that Coalescence back relatively quickly, but the support ultimates coming online for Ignition, they could be the difference maker. If Nightshade can also farm up this Pulse Bomb, expect to see that early.
Oh no, the Shatter came out, but it was not able to find any targets. Coalescence as well, not doing what it's intended, but Spider is able to open things up with a kill, as is Guess Who. Weave finding another one onto Swift, and that's going to open things up for Ignition as they go up 5 bodies to 4. Nightshade trying to get the best of Atomic, but Atomic finding the heads that they needed to click the triggers. What's in on the whole hog finding Guess Who with a supercharger, a very short-lived ultimate indeed, and now with another Deadeye from Atomic. Revamp is in a position to retake the point, but not able to do so with the rip tire. Oh, Pinto gets hooked, but saves themselves with the tire.
Good lord, that was absolutely fantastic. But look at Nightshade. Nightshade, a one-man carry at the moment.
One-man carry indeed. The tracer
Oh man,
of your
they're
nightmare.
gonna take this back. They're gonna take this back. I don't believe it.
Ignition Inferno with a coin flip that nobody saw coming there at the end. What play for Spider and Nightshade on that DPS to keep it alive.
God, look at Spider. Spider has been the solo Deadeye, just king of that map point. Like, that was hysterical. He hit nothing but solo Deadeyes, and each of them had huge value. But I mean, good grief. Both teams demonstrating really well how to reset on point and basically have re-engages in these long fights. And you know, you don't typically see these long drawn out fights on these long higher ranked teams, but the nuance of how they're doing it with the resets going on, you know, around and near point, I mean, it's just so cool. I love that Ignition is sticking with the Roadhog here. I love that it's a mirror now. You barely see pulled pork, and now we're seeing it in a mirror.
Pinto, are you doing it for me? The Torbjorn is now donning the stage.
He's ready to work.
That he is.
Map 5, man. Bring out the Torbjorn. Why not?
Yeah. Oh, but a big flank from Spider.
Oh!
Yikes, he immediately got caught out. He's going to have to retreat 100%. Weave as well, going for the high ground take. Not able to find much. There's the hook, but no dropping to the well, no environmental to start things off. Just a swift kill there.
And that's absolutely huge. Starting that off with a hook on the main tank, I mean, Orisa is pivotal in any comp she's in, but even more so on this pulled port comp. And now we're seeing Ignition. They can just swarm now. I mean, Torbjorn didn't stand a chance. Yes, you're sad to see it, but Webs now, the Roadhog, 75% towards that whole hog. I mean, with as much environmental potential for kills here, this whole hog can really provide a ton of value. Does have to watch out for Guess Who on that Roadhog for the hook out of it, but Yummy Bento, the Coalescence, definitely going to start this fight off, I imagine, farming it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, and Spider doing a good job on those Reaper, just peppering into the backline, keeping them paranoid, not allowing them to move forward constantly. Now the Coalescence going to come out from both sides to mostly keep each other alive as Bob gets onto the field. Guess who's going to go ahead and commit that ultimate, but Bob coming from the backline for Atomic. How did he get all the way over here? He's here to stay. Not anything to be done there. As from off the point, Bob goes crazy and finds a couple of kills.
Well,
Now
I'll actually tell you how Bob ended up over there. And it's very simple. Guess who hit the whole hog? Bob's momentum did not stop the whole time. He was just running while getting pushed back for the whole hog, propels him over to that back corner, and he runs forward and ruins the Deadeye. I mean, how do you account for that? Like, you can't blame Guess Who for that. That's completely unaccountable for. I mean, at some point, maybe you notice that you pull off and you don't hit anymore, but I mean, it just what circumstance coming up in this map 5?
Guess trying to get the best out of that Hidden Reaper, but Spider will be able to get away with a Death Blossom to dash as Pinto using that teleport to get into the backline, but not going to be an easy task as he's forced to teleport onto the point for the overtime battle.
Wow, and this look at this. I mean, this has just been dominating from Ignition. They've just been pulling shenanigans basically all around point, and now they're gonna take this series. I can't believe it. 2-0 fashion, that easy.
Yeah, Ignition really very strong on these control points.
Yeah, dominating, oppressive. I mean, all words you can use to describe them. But at the end of the day, the only word that matters if you're Ignition is winners, and they take this series 3-2. I mean, absolutely fantastic performance from both these teams. I mean, these teams were both 2-1 going into this series. I don't think it was any surprise to anyone here that this was going to be a tough, drawn-out series. But the level of play we saw is just absolutely phenomenal. Both teams, really left it all out on the joysticks, so to speak, and we were all the better for it, seeing some great Overwatch here from the console scene on Xbox.
That we were, and a lot of ups to every single player. I mean, I think there was a point where we talked the praises of at least every single player in that matchup. At some point, we were sitting here dumbfounded by the amount of skill they were bringing to the table. Although, if I had to give you my MVP vote, it's got to be Kai. Kai or USC Infinite. But Kai's Widowmaker play on King's Row was just absolutely insane.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like you said, every player here deserving of the accolades, of the praise. And I mean, in a match like this, as close as it was, you need every player to come together. You need every player to pop off. And that's exactly what we saw. So, I mean, it's so hard to narrow it down. I thought Umioka on the Junkrat, I mean, completely uncontested, just so much value. Kept, in my opinion, really kept Ignition in this series on Temple Anubis, set up the ability for that one tick on the second point just from a stellar defensive hold. And I mean, that to me, you go back to that's really the game changer. And it brings it back to this map 5, which was control. And we saw how dominant. I mean, that's something we can definitely be said here is Ignition is dominant on control maps. And it's going to be tough for any team in the senior division to take them to task on that. And that really, I mean, in a format where you have 2 control maps in a close series, I mean, a team that's good on control, that's going to serve you very well coming up in this tournament as the weeks go on.
That it is. And make sure that you guys are tuning into this tournament as the weeks go on. But sadly, we are going to have to bid you adieu, as that is a wrap for us here at the ELO Hell channel. So, from myself, Shadow24, my wonderful co-caster Hamwell, our producer Airborne, and our observers Bull Skunk 5s, and of course our lobby mod Chef Billy. All of us here at ELO Esports, thank you so much for tuning in. So stay safe, don't be toxic, and have a wonderful evening.